Welcome to Mom's True Tea, the podcast where moms can spill the true tea on various thought-provoking topics and challenge beliefs about motherhood and life authentically, unapologetically, and without judgment. I'm your host, Kendall Lasha Williams. Hey girl, bring it on in. Welcome back to season 3 of Mom's True Tea, and Happy New Year. We are in 2025. 2024 was quite interesting, but here we are, so we're thankful. Today I'm going to do what I typically do and talk about the taboo topics that nobody else wants to talk about around parenthood. As I dive into what seems to be a trend on social media these days in everyday conversations amongst the millennials and the Gen Ys and maybe some Gen Xers too. And that trend is go no contact with your parent. Because let's be real, this is a conversation that needs to be had, but I'm going to flip the script a little bit. As always, I'm not just going to talk about kids going no contact with their parents, but I want to shed some light on what it looks like when parents decide to go no contact with their children, or they're perfectly fine with you deciding to go no contact with us. Yep, I said it. And why is this becoming a trend? Well, it seems like adult kids have made the decisions to no longer communicate with their parents. And what I'm noticing in some instances is that that's applauded, or it's somehow justified, or it's celebrated because the parent is now demonized for the reason why a child decides to go no contact. But the moment a parent chooses to go no contact, or they choose to be okay with no contact, people lose their damn minds, because parents are waking up from their slumber, like I said, and we are choosing distance over disrespect, and we are protecting our peace over proximity. Let's talk about this double standard for a minute, why it exists and what's really going on behind the scenes or in these family dynamics, and why a lot of these kids are going no contact, because the shit is just petty. And some of it is entitlement. Now, I'm not negating children who decide to go no contact with the parent because that parent has been abusive, but they're going no contact because parents are opting out, supporting them financially, or a parent simply disagreed with them or told them something they didn't want to hear, or corrected them about something, because in this new generation they can't be corrected, or their feelings get hurt, or they get upset, or they're being abused just because you say something to them or correct them or check them. And sometimes it doesn't even matter your tone, because I know the tone police are going to come up in the comments as well, but it doesn't necessarily have to do with the parent's tone. I remember my son coming over with his girlfriend, my younger son, about a year and a half ago, and she came in the house, and I'm sure she spoke at the door, but I wasn't at the door. I was sitting in another area of the home. I didn't even realize she had come into the house because she wasn't talking or engaging, and she sat in the kitchen instead of coming in the family room where we typically sit and engage. And I remember saying, "Oh, I didn't even know you were here because I didn't hear you say anything when you came down the hallway." And she still didn't say anything or engage, so I let it be. And then the next day I decided to send her a text message in which I thought I was being very polite, and I said to her, "Hey, you may want to make sure that you speak when you come into someone's home." And she thumbs it up. And then my younger son decided to call me and curse me out because she was not happy. How dare an adult correct you 20-something or 30-year-old, because I noticed that what parents do is they let their children come around adults and come into spaces, and they won't even greet people. I'm paying attention to all of this because that could never happen. Me as a Gen Xer, I speak to people that I don't even like. Like, I may not engage with you, but I still have the common courtesy that I was taught as a child to enter a space and you say hello. Simple. And forgive the sniffles, guys. I am getting over this New Year flu, but I digress. When kids decide to go no contact, it's almost like they get a standing ovation from social media. People say, "Good for you for protecting your peace," or "You're setting healthy boundaries." And again, I'm not dismissing anyone's lived experience because I know there can be some horrible parents. Trust me, I know. If a parent was abusive emotionally, physically, financially, to your spirit, in whatever way, I understand why you may go no contact, especially if you try to confront that parent and have a conversation and they don't want to have it. But even with that, me not negating what your experience is, but when do you heal and get over it? When do you go to a parent and you see that they're not emotionally intelligent or emotionally ready to have a conversation or acknowledge your experience? When do you make a conscious decision to say, "You know what? I said what I had to say. I'm going to move forward." Whether that be you decide to move on and no longer communicate with them, or you decide to move forward in that relationship, regardless. It's totally up to you. But I feel like even with that, at some point, you have to heal. But again, I know some parents are very, very toxic, and no one should be forced to endure any toxic relationship. But here's where it gets sticky when parents decide to go no contact, because on the flip side, they have a child that's toxic or several children that's toxic. And I'm saying adult children because that's what I have, adult children, but there's teenagers. And hell, one lady, even in my comments, said her 6-year-old was being disrespectful because he was angry that his father wasn't in his life. So when parents decide to go no contact, it's a whole different story. Suddenly you hear, what kind of parent gives up on their child? You're right. What kind of parent gives up on their child? Do you know what it takes for a parent to make a conscious decision that they can no longer be in communication with their child because they're toxic? Or you'll hear, "You're the adult. You should know better." I do know better. That's why I'm choosing peace. And that's why I'm deciding to remove myself from the situation before it escalates even further, because it can go there. I know personally it can escalate and go there. And then you'll hear things like, "You must have been a bad parent," or "A child learns disrespect by what they see." Do you see the contradiction here? Why is it okay for kids to walk away and give no grace to imperfect parents if they were imperfect, but parents are expected to stick it out, always give their children grace no matter what? It's as if being a parent means you're forever going to have to sacrifice your peace, your dignity, your heart, and sometimes your mental health, because all of this is extremely stressful and impacts us in so many ways that show up in our body when you've dealt with constant disrespect and abuse from a child that you love, all for the sake of staying connected because you're a parent. And when does that parent get the grace to operate in the peace that they deserve? I'll share something personal. I've had moments with my own kids. Of course, as you all know, I'm always very transparent. My oldest son, who's 34, we've had some tough conversations. He's in therapy and some things have come up, and he has come to me and we have had conversations about those things. And I've owned any part in things that he brought to me. I've apologized when I needed to, and I made the changes where I could. There's that accountability you social media therapists always love to say that parents don't take. But the difference is he came to me with respect, and we both were able to have a respectful conversation and hear one another. And then you'll get some parents that are not willing to do that either. When my youngest came to me, who's 29, and simply because he didn't hear what he wanted to, or he didn't get what he wanted, the disrespect was way too much. When the blame being thrown at me wasn't fair, nor was it true. And I had to ask myself, at what point do you stop accepting this behavior just because that's your son and because you carry the title mom? And I know I'm not alone in this, because the post I made on TikTok and Instagram around this same subject has gotten over 313,000 views. Over 12,000 people have shared it, and over 2,000 people have commented. And that's just on Instagram. And it's with parents either totally understanding they're in this same experience and they're exhausted and they're heartbroken over how their teenage or adult children are treating them. Like I said earlier, a woman even said in my comments her 6-year-old was being disrespectful to her. 6! When these same parents are not the abusers, but they're the parents that have really been decent parents to their children. How many of you can relate, feeling like no matter what you do, it's never going to be good enough? Or all of a sudden, now your child is coming to you with how traumatic their lives were with you, when in most cases, that's not true. So let's talk about the bigger picture of this trend. This no contact thing is definitely a trend. It's a dangerous trend. And some highly religious people say it's even a sign of the times that we're living in the last days, because there is a Bible scripture, I can't remember which one, that talks about where families turn against each other. And I can see that. Others think, like me, it's social media influence, or even this therapy culture that's pushing this narrative. I think it's a mix of everything. Social media plays a massive role in it for sure. It's so easy to scroll through TikToks and Reels and see the memes or the quotes, or someone in their car bashing their parents and bragging about how they're gonna go no contact. It's these so-called social media therapists or these new life coaches who don't even have half of the life experiences some of us do. They don't have kids, or they just became parents and now they're calling their parents narcissists, or they didn't have a voice. Their parent made them do chores and that was oppression, or the parent was working so much and was never there for them, or whatever oppression they're now experiencing. And others see this and think like, yeah, that's me too. My parents told me to do chores. I was oppressed. Yeah. But how much of it is true? How much of it is being influenced by weak-mindedness, being easily influenced by friends or spouses or peers or any other outside forces? And let's not forget therapy. Now, don't get me wrong. I have been in therapy myself, and therapy provides some amazing tools for you to do the work to get towards the healing that you're seeking or whatever. However, I think therapy is what people make it. Either you're going to come out of therapy and you're going to be in a position where you utilize those tools that you've learned so you can work on your individual healing, or you're going to come out of therapy and you're going to blame everyone else around you still for whatever situation or whatever issues or whatever it is that you're trying to heal from. And I think that's dangerous. And then we also need to keep in mind some of the therapists have issues with their parents. So, how can they be subjective or objective when it comes to your discussion? And are you going into therapy and painting the complete picture? Like, are you telling your part? Are you telling what you've done or how you were growing up with that parent? And can they honestly call you to the carpet on your shit too? But I do believe in therapy. Don't get me wrong. But not every therapist is great. And sometimes the advice given and what I'm recognizing is it pushes people toward cutting off relationships instead of repairing them. Or maybe it's just a necessary shift in how we approach family dynamics. When you listen to this episode, I love to hear your thoughts. So make sure you go on my social media or send me a message and let me know what your thoughts is on this. Do you think this is a trend? Now, let's get to the heart of the matter from what I think is happening. Okay? Boundaries. Parents are human too. We're not just providers, caretakers, or your punching bags for your emotions. We have our own lives, we have our own struggles, and we have our own trauma. And we also have our own mental health to protect. Some of us are getting older. I'm 51 years old. I will be 52 in 2 months. I am in cancer remission as of December 1st. I don't need anything in my life that is going to cause me any more trauma or it impacts my mental well being. And let me be clear, setting boundaries is not the same as giving up. When you hear parents or anyone say, I'm going to create safe boundaries for myself, that does not mean that they're giving up on their child. It's about saying, I love you, but I love myself. And I will no longer tolerate being disrespected or abused or you coming to me with this false narrative of oppression. Okay? I've done my part. And now it's up to you to take responsibility for your life because some adult children are failing in life, but want to now blame their parents for it. But you'll talk about us. You'll go no contact. You'll say we're narcissistic and we brought all this drama and trauma into your life, but yet we are the same ones that you call when you need something or when you're in trouble. So if it's just a transactional relationship, just say that. Then I know how to navigate that versus you coming back and acting like you want a relationship with me, because that's what parents want with their children in most cases. We don't want anything transactional with you. So think about that. I've also heard things like respect is earned and not given. Like, who the hell came up with that asinine rule? There is a hierarchy in a parent to child relationship. It's always been that way. Whether you new parents or new generations like that or not. And part of the problem in our society today is some parents want to be so cool and best friends with their kids, so there's no line. And then your kid goes out into public being disrespectful because they don't see all adults as being in a hierarchy. They think they're on their level, and that's a problem. But y'all don't want to talk about that. Respect should be given to a parent. especially one who has been a nurturer, provider, support system, your personal financial banker, has supported your dreams even when you didn't fulfill them or stick with them. They protected you no matter what, even in ways you don't even know or realize. Protected you no matter the cost to them, and so much more. Respect shouldn't be something we have to fight for or even should have to demand as parents. And yet, when we talk about setting boundaries or walking away from our toxic relationships with toxic kids, we're vilified and demonized. Why is that? Why can't a parent say, I choose peace, without becoming the villain, without being a narcissist, without being the one who's not accountable? I think the common and most annoying pushback I see in the comments when I post content from a parent's perspective and not the warm and fuzzy parent perspective is kids never asked to be born, or you should have never had kids, or you should have kept your legs closed, which is such a vile and disgusting and low vibrational thing to say. But no shit. But they're here. Hence why we're having the conversation. So it's kind of a stupid point to make when you're talking about kids and you say you should have never had kids or don't have kids or whatever. Or they say you must have done something wrong. And then you haven't done anything wrong. But these people don't know you, and they take a 30 to 60-second clip and form their own opinion because it's their projection. It's because of their own experience. It's also closed-mindedness. It's also people sit on social media and they like to judge without informed logic. Or again, you have these social media therapists and these TED talkers or these coaches who are in their 30s and now they are making this narrative and they come in with all this advice because they got a little baby, a toddler, or a teenager that wants to do a TikTok dance with them or wants to hang with them, and they think they're an amazing parent because of that. But that's not necessarily the case. And that's why we shouldn't judge someone else's journey, as I always said. Then I've heard things like, you're just mad because your kid is probably telling you the truth about yourself. Baby, listen. One thing about me, in this big age of 51 and about to be 52, I live in my truth. Nobody can tell my story better than me, even someone who has experienced me, because people experience you from their lens. And when I say that, if you're the type of parent that will not allow disrespect, your child is always going to think you're a bad parent. If you're the type of parent that sets boundaries, your child will always think you're a bad parent. In this day and age, if you even say anything to a child, you're a bad parent. And it's nasty, wicked work. So listen, I've taken accountability for whatever I've had to with both of my sons, even the youngest one who is hella disrespectful. And I'm going to stand on that because he is. But what I will never do is take blame for things that aren't mine to carry. And neither should you. What's really sad is most parents don't speak up about their experiences. And I see it in the comments. I see people say, I thought I was the only one going through this. Oh, I thank you for saying this out loud. I never thought anyone else was having this experience where I could talk to. Or do you have a support group? Do you mentor? Do you coach? Listen. I'm here to have conversations. And you'll never hear me say I'm some coach. I'm just speaking from the perspective of my experience, and it will always be unfiltered. But again, like I said, what's really sad is most parents don't speak up about their experiences. And you know why? Because we still try to protect the same kids who have been disrespectful and abusive to us, and even the ones that have gone no contact with parents. We're still trying to protect them, but they have no care in the world about us. Or because parents are afraid of being judged by society. My experiences are my experiences. And when I have time, I will go toe to toe with anybody in the comments. Plus, I'm Gen X. And yeah, we don't play that shit. You're not going to come and say something that's not true about us or make some nasty comment and we're just going to let that slide. Yeah, no, that's not going to work. But again, they're afraid of being judged by society. We also keep family business private, which is good and bad. But if you're a kid, they're going to promote all their issues on social media. And my level of petty parenting says do the same. Share your stories and experiences too, because shame loves silence. Shame loves silence. The problem that I have with society is that they always delegitimize a parent's experience. They make you the villain the whole time. You're the one being abused and disrespected for years by your kid that's portraying being a victim. And when people hear kid, they don't think that you're talking about an adult, someone who is hella grown and not a little child. And parents sharing their stories is not to play the victim, but to show that there's another side to this conversation. In fact, I would welcome an open and intelligent conversation with a millennial or one of these perfect moms that come up in my comments with all this judgment. I would love to talk to you. So reach out to me, because when parents stay silent, the narrative becomes one-sided. And the truth is, there are some really good parents out there who have done everything more than what they were obligated to do as a parent, and they still get disrespected or blamed for their children's failures or just blamed for anything. As you listen to this episode, I want you to think about this. How many parents are probably out there suffering in silence as it relates to being hurt by a child, disrespecting them or abusing them, and then that child going and created a false narrative to go no contact with that parent? Or they're afraid of being seen as weak or unloving, so they don't talk about it. How many are holding on to toxic relationships with their children just because society says they have to because they're a parent? It's not right and it's not fair. And I want to be very clear to those who are listening and like to misinterpret things. I never advocate for family dynamics being torn apart. I love to see healthy parent-child relationships. I have a healthy relationship with my older son, and the younger one, I don't. A win is a win. And I chose to go no contact with my younger son. And that's not easy for a parent to do when they genuinely love their child. So take that into consideration while you're out here judging another parent's decision to choose peace over proximity and distance over disrespect. So, where do we go from here? If you are a parent that is struggling with this dynamic, whether your child went no contact with you, you know in your heart of hearts, seriously, you know you have done nothing to hurt your child for them to go no contact, then I want to hear from you, because I know some of you are struggling with this dynamic. I know you are, but you are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to set boundaries, and you are allowed to say, I have done enough and more than enough, because we can give 170 million yeses throughout the course of our child's lives. And the moment we say no, or the moment we don't agree, we are a bad parent. And to those who criticize parents for speaking up, especially these moms out here, I challenge you, as always, take a step back. Listen to both sides before passing judgment. or just have some damn empathy. I also challenge you to watch how you speak on another mom's journey. Okay? Because as I've said before, people have said things about me when I've shared what I was going through with my son. And they've said negative things about me. Some of them don't even realize that some of those things have come back to me. However, be careful, because I also know some of them have issues with their own kids. And then, or they hide it because now their pride won't allow them to come back to me and say, hey, I understood what you were talking about. So just be mindful that things can change in the dynamic of any child, even when you thought it could never happen to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so blessed to have a community where I can show up as my most authentic self because I don't know what else to be. Don't forget to favorite the show, leave a review, and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite streaming platforms to stay up to date on new episodes. Subscribe to my newsletter at 𝐬𝐿.com. Follow us on all socials at MTU&x, and be sure to share and stay tuned for more thought-provoking topics and real talk on Mom's True Tea with Kendall Lasha. Until next time, remember, you need you just as much as anyone else, so stop playing about you, okay?